If you want to understand MAGA, or at least an important part of it, if you want to understand what happened to the Republican Party and how it became this atrocity as it exists today, if you want to understand how and why tens of millions of people are worshiping a failed casino owner who can barely string together a sentence, we have to acknowledge that to a degree, MAGA is what happens when people have no friends, or maybe put more subtly, are interested in antisocial behavior and maybe more importantly, antisocial approaches to governance and to society. Now, before people jump all over me, this doesn't mean that every Trump supporter literally has no friends and is isolated. That's not what I mean. Plenty of people in MAGA go to church, they live in communities, they're surrounded by people who think like them. But this is exactly the point. They're surrounded by people who reinforce their worldview, the same fears and the resentments and the beliefs that someone else is to blame for everything that Trump has successfully weaponized to build this MAGA movement starting back in 2015. So I'm not making the case that every MAGA Potamian is physically alone. A lot of MAGA voters are sociologically and ideologically cut off from perspectives that are outside their bubbles. And many of them are truly isolated, by the way. We've talked about incel culture, but I think we can, that can get pejorative if we just talk about, have some of them been abandoned by society, or at least feel as though they have, or abandoned by the economy, abandoned by the culture, abandoned by the left. And when this happens, MAGA doesn't just look like politics. It looks like rescue. It looks like this is what's going to save me. One of the things that Trump did so effectively, and he's done it dishonestly, he's done it with lies and incompetence, but it's still worth learning about, is he has succeeded at telling people, you are not the problem. Nothing you've done is wrong. They are the problem. Democrats, Marxists, anarchists, as Trump sometimes says, anarchists, immigrants, people from China, whoever, right? You're not losing in the free market. You're being targeted. You're a victim. You're not alone. You're part of something huge and patriotic and righteous. And then what it does is it turns grievance into identity and resentment into belonging. They claim that the left is about grievance politics. They claim that the left is about identity politics. But the truth is, they have weaponized grievance into a form of identity politics where you don't need connection with people. You need enemies based on who you are. You don't need to develop a sense of empathy for other people. You need someone to own and to dominate. You don't even need the truth. You need loyalty to the leader. That's what you need. And this is how MAGA has become really more than a movement. It's become a personality cult for people who feel discarded by society. The rallies, the Facebook groups, the memes and the hashtags or whatever. They're not about policy. They're about belonging. You look at some of these MAGA people. There's this guy, Forgiato Blow, who looks like a clown. I mean, he's dressed up with a strange chin strap beard and a huge MAGA hat, and he's got chains that, his car is painted in Trump's face. It's about belonging at the end of the day. They look like morons, there's no doubt. But belonging to a tribe that's getting its meaning from who they hate and the orange man that they worship. And if you've been isolated long enough, and again, you might have people around you, but you're isolated economically, for example, the hate starts to feel good. It feels like clarity, power. It fills a silence. But the kicker is it's all fake, right? It's not real community. It's a closed loop of outrage. It's not friendship. It's a media ecosystem that exploits you. And Trump doesn't know these people. He doesn't care about them. He wouldn't recognize them outside of a rally. He spent his whole privileged life as a rich New York kid being kept away from the very people that now make up his constituency. But I think many of them would die for Trump because he gave them a story. It's a simple story. It's a comforting story. You're the victim. They rigged it against you. And the only person who has the solution is Trump. And then in comes Fox News and Newsmax, and they just kind of fill in the rest. Everything wrong is the fault of Democrats and immigrants and drag queen story hours and the deep state. And everything Trump does, doesn't matter if it's harmful, it's either heroic or it's someone else's fault. Either Trump is heroic for a tax bill that will lead to 15 million people losing coverage, or it's someone else's fault. Yes, 15 million may lose coverage, but it would be someone else's fault. And what's dangerous is that this part of MAGA, this isolated, echo chambered, antisocial wing, they don't want democracy. They want control, revenge. They want to feel something, even if it's hate, and they want to be the deciders. And that's why they cheer book bans, which seem to contradict their value of free speech. They threaten school boards. They idolize being cruel to people, because group cruelty starts to become a sort of connection. So we should be restating some of the important facts here. Not all MAGA voters are literally loners, but MAGA thrives in loneliness. It feeds on people who are hurting, offers them identity through division, and it's never about fixing what's actually broken. It's let's identify something that's broken, even if you don't understand why, and I lie to you about why it's broken. Let's identify something that's broken or seems broken and turn that into a weapon or a cudgel to go after other people. And if that social decay keeps spreading, disconnection, despair, algorithm-driven isolation, the movement is likely to keep growing even beyond Trump. So we've got to deal with the loneliness to a degree if we want to fix the politics. But to a degree, MAGA is what happens when people feel alone and someone tells them the answer is not connection or integration into systems and society. The answer is vengeance. And it has worked really well to build this movement.